Brady Tkachuk will be in the lineup for the Senators' final regular season game as they host the Carolina Hurricanes. And there was a lot of questions whether the captain would be ready, given that he missed the last 8 games with an upper body injury. And Bruce, when you look at Tkachuk playing in this final game, do you think it's risky or do you think it's really important for him to play?
Well, I think it's important for him to play because he wants to play. I really believe, Claire, that this is Brady Tkachuk's choice to suit up in this game. I think the Senators would have been quite fine if Brady Tkachuk wanted to suit up in Game 1 of the Battle of Ontario on Sunday night. But I think that Tkachuk feels like he needs this as a bit of a tune-up. You know, he talked to you and I today about, getting some touches, work on the wall, work on the power play. There are things you can't do in practice that are the same as a game, and I feel like he thinks he needs this game just to be ready for Sunday when the puck is dropped for real and his first playoff game.
And it's going to be his first game since March 30th when he suffered that upper body injury. Before that, he was dealing with a hip injury. But looking at the historical precedent, are there any risky issues you think? Because players might have dealt with this kind of thing before and injured themselves before the playoffs, given this is a meaningless game.
Well, I maybe I've been around too long, Claire, but I think of the last game in the 2000 season against the Tampa Bay Lightning before the Senators went into the playoffs against the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first Battle of Ontario. Wade Redden breaks his foot in what is essentially a meaningless game, blocking a shot. He doesn't play in that series. The Senators lose that series. And Grant Ledyard, a longtime veteran, goes in for Wade Redden. There was no question that Redden had been their best defenseman that season. That's the risk involved, okay, of having Brady Tkachuk play tonight, because and I know that there is no stop sign for Tkachuk. He's going to be up here. His game is never going to be down here, and there's no middle ground for him. So that's the risk of putting him in, but I think he wants to take that risk. Let's be honest, the medical staff wouldn't put him in there if they thought there was going to be a risk of him re-injuring himself. So from that standpoint, I think that's pretty comfortable. And certainly this is a discussion that Steve Staios and Travis Green had with Tkachuk before they green-lighted this.
Something the Senators definitely want to work on before they go into the playoffs is their 5-on-5 game. Now, when you look at their leading goal scorer, it's Brady Tkachuk. He has 29 goals. Do you think any of the motivation for him playing in tonight's game is because he wants to reach that 30-goal mark?
Well, I think that probably exists a little bit. It'd be 30 goals for 4 straight seasons, Claire, and that's a good accomplishment. I said to Tim Stützle today, I said, when Jeremy Roenick got put in the Hall of Fame, he said one of the guys that influenced his career was Brady's father, Keith. And he said, because Keith said to him, if Tkachuk isn't open, give the puck to Tkachuk. Find Tkachuk at every chance. And if there are no other options, just give the puck to Big Walt. He was kidding, of course, but I said that to Stützle and said, Stützle laughed, but he also said, you know what, we're past that stage of our careers. It's not about personal numbers or anything anymore. That's part of maturing. It's about winning. And he said the number one goal tonight for Tkachuk and the team is to get ready, and it's about winning going into the postseason.
Now, Brady did not want to talk at all about the Battle of Ontario. He said he was just focused on this game tonight against Carolina, but we're going to talk about the Battle of Ontario. And Bruce, when you covered this series back in the early 2000s, what struck you about it? And do you believe that the rivalry will be as heated in the series?
Well, one of the things that struck me was that the Senators could never shake off beating the Toronto Maple Leafs. They couldn't make it happen. They were up 3-2 in the series in 2004 and let it slip away. I look at this series and I think about, some of the incidents that have happened here. Ricard Pearson's hit on Ty Domi. Domi had never bled in his life. I think that was in 2002, and that turned the series around. I look at some of the heroic performances that went on, the way that Pat Quinn pushed every button with his team to beat the Senators in Four Springs. I mean, he outcoached Jacques Martin. He really did. And as great a coach as Jacques was for this team and the best coach they've had in their history, he just couldn't get them over the hump. There are a lot of memories here. The one thing that's good about them playing for the first time in 21 years, Claire, is everybody gets a chance to write a new chapter to the book.
And I was speaking with Jacques Martin this morning. He said a big reason he came back to work with the organization last year, unfinished business. And that's what it's going to take for the Ottawa Senators to get past Toronto. Looking at these teams right now, who do you think the villains are going to be this time around?
Well, the Battle of Ontario has a history of villains, right? Like Gary Roberts, Joe Nieuwendyk, Ty Domi, Darcy Tucker, Travis Green, right? And on the Ottawa side, Daniel Alfredson, Chris Neal, Wade Redden. I mean, that has been the beauty of the Battle of Ontario, has been the villains. And I think this is an opportunity for new players to exert themselves as villains. You have a Domi on the Toronto side, Max Domi. I think he's going to emerge as a villain in this series. Austin Matthews is going to be a villain because he's the best player. There is no question in my mind, and we've talked an awful lot about Brady Tkachuk, but after watching him on that Four Nations stage, Brady Tkachuk is going to be a villain in this series. I had a chat with Ray Ferraro the other day, and Ray said one of the concerns that they have is maybe they might have to harness Brady in a little bit. I don't think you have to harness Brady in a little bit. I think this is the perfect stage for him. I think that, the Senators got Nick Cousins back from injury. Nick Cousins is one of the most unpopular players in the league to play against. He's a pain in the butt. And I think that Nick Cousins is the perfect addition for this kind of series.
Well, before we get to the Battle of Ontario, the Ottawa Senators will have their final regular season game tonight, and a little bit of load management. Out of the lineup, Thomas Chabot, Artem Zub, and Matthew Highmore will not play.